we both went on a trip. I remember something waking me up in my dream. It was like something chewing my bones. And I wake up, this guy's eating chips. At like 7 in the morning. I was like, bro. All right, guys, welcome to the pod. We haven't been together for a long time. Did you guys listen to the discussion last week with Rachel Gallagher?
I did.
Yeah. Great.
What was your key takeaway?
Review the tags on your clothing.
Mm.
It plays a critical part of what's being made and how it's been made.
Mm.
How about yourself, Hubert?
Actually, I didn't listen to it. I just saw some few highlights, but I didn't get to listen to the whole thing properly.
Saw a few highlights.
Yeah, it was good. Like, I mean, there's an industry out there, there's a lot of fast fashion, moving stuff, and then trying to empower people, right? So, yeah, big topics.
Yeah, because I saw you talking about some sustainable fashion. I was sort of, I didn't want to listen to see what was said about that because I don't know what that means. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll look into after this.
So it's do you know the concept of it? It's like the fast fashion is like when you go to, those quick clothing retailers.
Yeah.
You buy a t-shirt that's got some sort of big print on it. Only lasts a season pretty much, and then what do you do with it? You just chuck it away, right? And then so that goes into disposal. Whereas if you bought something probably higher quality, less of a fad, that would last longer, right? Do you remember back in the day you'd buy Levi's and they just last you until you grew out of them? They just wouldn't tear up. Now jeans are few years and they're ripping up. It's nuts. So
I used to demonize Kmart, but what she was saying about on the tag, if you can certified cotton, I think she said.
Yeah.
That means you can train it all the way. Not train it. You can trace it in the supply chain.
Okay.
So if you can trace it in the supply chain, then that's usually a good indication that it's ethical. Or at least if it's not ethical, you can trace it and you can identify that it's not.
So what's the unethical fashion?
There's a couple of things. So all the stuff from overseas is created with higher concentrations of polyester.
Okay.
And apparently to create fashion with polyester, you have to use more oil, which, is bad. So the more oil you use, the worse it is. But more cotton, the better. It's better for your body, actually. I hate wearing polyester clothes. So that was one tip. The other one was fast fashion, like Ash said, just a churn of clothes where everyone just wants newer and newer stuff, more things getting disposed of, worse for the environment. And there's obviously the stuff around working conditions and people. I don't know if you guys saw, we're probably going sidetracking, but Shein, those workers work 18 hours a day. Like a lot of them work 18 hours a day. And if they make a small mistake, they don't get paid for those hours. And there's all these dodgy conditions that some of these people have to work through overseas. So good things to think about. I want to buy the cheapest thing at all times because it's better for me. But, there's a whole world out there that we're affecting.
Maybe I should give this thing a watch then. I'll watch it after this.
As a loyal subscriber.
We'll ask Hubert next episode if he's listened. And if he hasn't, you're allowed to shave one part of Hubert.
That's
As
fair.
the audience, you can decide. All right, guys, what's been happening? What's new? Ash, you studying anything new these days?
Now I've taken a little bit of a break. So
He's turned Kiwi.
Yeah, that's
He's taking
right.
a bit of a break, bro.
Yeah, so I'm just embracing getting my little certificates finally. So yeah, it's been rewarding.
Everything framed up on your wall, all your certificates.
Not yet, but so hopefully soon one day. So
Yeah.
I didn't realize how expensive frames were once you pay for the whole degree. But yeah, we'll carry on.
Yeah. Do you ever regret? Is there anything out of everything you've done that you won't find useful and you regret doing?
What, life experience? You talking about my study?
No, I mean, let's not go into. I regret having that beer on. No, out of all the stuff you studied, is there something that you're like, that was probably a waste of time?
Not anything significant comes to mind. I did the Scrum courses, which I wanted just for knowledge. So that was okay. But everything else, I think it's added some value to me overall, and it's been in a higher path. So everything's added value. You sometimes use the stuff straight away you learn. Sometimes you use it like a year later. So at that time you got to go back to your notes, sort of reflect, figure out what's going on. How do you really apply it? So, but it's all added value, I think. Definitely.
Thanks, Hubert.
What was that?
No, nothing. It's just I thought you were going to add something.
Oh, no.
You breathed very heavily into your mic.
No,
He's just getting more fumed up. He's
I
like,
just,
what do you mean
I
it's
just,
adding
I just,
value?
I just heard the place. That's why I was like, what's going on? I thought we were in trouble here.
It's usually not like this, but
I-
there's always a first.
I don't know if when my kids grow older, I'm umming and ahhing about encouraging them to go to university. You know, that was such a big thing for us.
I mean, I was the first one in my family to go to uni properly, so
Yeah.
yeah.
But like our parents really stressed that for us, right?
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was
Of course,
the
finish year 12, get a really good grade, go to uni, and then go into the workforce.
I think for me it was like an expectation you had to go to university here. So yeah, I didn't feel like I had any other choice when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my experience.
So,
Yeah.
I probably a bit different, right? Like, so as a youngish kid, like let's say year 8, year 9, probably knew that I wanted to go into accounting because I liked the business, right? So for me, that was pretty clear up front. I wasn't like, yeah, but prior to that, I just really enjoyed working with cars. So I was actually going to leave school and become a mechanic. So I actually went to like an apprenticeship, like a BMW, like a day tour and all that sort of stuff.
Really?
Yeah. So actually was taking it very seriously because I wasn't book smart at all by all my qualifications now. And my parents didn't, they were like, oh, go study, didn't know how to study. So that's sort of a waste. You're sitting down in a room just blankly looking at a piece of paper. It doesn't add value. And then my dad's just like, what are you doing? Like after I had already gone to it, already considering my options, going, yeah, I can leave at year 10, go get this apprenticeship and, you know, work away. And he's just put me up and said, what are you doing? He's like, just work a bit harder. And so I was like, all right.
Things Dad say.
Yeah, so I was like, with that vague advice, like sort of went and worked a bit harder. But I was like, I still knew I wanted to do business, but I didn't like enjoy it. Like someone at the time was like, you must do a science to get into uni. So I chose chemistry. Like absolutely hated chemistry, right? Zero value add to my life, even to this day, right? But I'm like business, legal studies, all that stuff, really enjoyed. And, you know, that just continued that passion.
You did use chemistry though. I mean, in your third year of uni when you met Nilu.
Oh, right. First year, mate. First year. There
Was
we
it
go.
first year?
Yeah, it's been that long, mate.
You told me third year. I should
First year. So, but it's very different. So, but yeah, look, like I think having that, you know, indirect pressure, absolutely. So, yeah, like I had a few friends go into careers that they didn't really want. And it's just because someone in their family had chosen something, so they didn't know any better. So they're like, we'll just do the same thing. So that can lead you into some dangerous territory. But I was pretty clear on what I wanted and how I was going to get ahead. And so, you know, using that example, went to uni. I knew I wasn't going to be the smartest one, but I was like, I can use work experience to get ahead. So I started working quite early on in my uni career, just like, you know, to push that on. So yeah, that's been my approach.
That's probably the difference. Not many people firstly have the opportunity to work and study in the same industry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously the three of us have. But is the expectation coming out of uni that you get a job in that field? That's the expectation, right?
No way.
I know, that's the old expectation.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Nail a big job. No one had told me, but like when I had sat down the first accounting class, I was like, there's not enough jobs for this many people, and there's more than like one university in Sydney. I was like, this, like the maths doesn't work. And I was like, there's going to be a gap. So that's what drove me, but maybe I just saw it slightly ahead of the curve.
You were thinking very maturely at the first year of uni.
Competitive advantage, right? So like, no, that's how my head works, right? It's like, you know, you see everyone, you're like, this isn't going to work. Let's figure it out. Like, what's the next step? What do I need to do to get ahead of the next person? So yeah.
So is uni a waste of time going forward then for people that are taking it on?
Yeah, so this is what my sort of pet peeve is. Like, I guess university, there's a place for university. And I think in one of my previous episodes where you talked a bit about why you do all those courses, I was very much I wasn't a big fan of university. But then after listening to what you were saying, the extra studies, I guess there is a place for it. But it's not for everyone. And that's sort of where I'm coming to. University should be a bit more exclusive, should be more difficult than what it is right now. I felt university was like pretty easy in a way. Like I think like a lot of people can do that, and I don't think it should be like that. I think it should be difficult, should be hard to get into, should be more like an exclusive sort of club. And I think in the way society is right now, not everyone needs to be university degree. We need the trade people, we need the people sort of doing the blue collar work as well. So not everyone needs university degrees.
Are you saying like all university degrees should be hard, or like certain degrees? Like for example, and I'm not taking the piss on Bachelor of Arts here, but Bachelor of Arts, if you make that super hard.
I mean, I think there's some degrees that don't need to exist.
Oh my goodness.
No, that's just, I mean, some of these degrees, they seem useless. So,
Yeah.
and it's like,
Go on. Explain which one do you think is useless? Let's go into it. No, you've obviously got thoughts in this. Go on.
Yeah. So things like your arts, your gender studies, all like weird stuff like that. Like why? What's the point of spending 3 years paying close to $100,000 on the degree like that?
Yeah.
Are you going to get a job that's going to cover pay that debt off? I don't think so.
But is that your call to make, or is that someone else's call to make that decision on studying something? So
what do you mean? As in like,
so you're saying like, okay, I finished school, right? So let's put this in several buckets, right? I don't know what I want to do in the future, or look, I'm not that book smart. Maybe you are book smart. You can either go work, you can't get a professional job straight away. You can either go work, do some sort of, retail stuff, whatever that looks like. You may work as a labourer, you may work as something to get your skills up, and you can work your way up the chain. You can go to uni, try to further your education, but you still start off at the bottom of the food chain. Uni doesn't mean you skip food chains, right? So, like, but you're saying what are you trying to say there? Like, it's not valued anymore. That we're like going, oh yeah, actually 40% of our population we need trade people, so therefore we're making uni harder. Like, I struggled in uni, genuinely.
Yeah.
I didn't find it easy at all. I still don't understand accounting after all that stuff. Because there's a lot of hard rules, right? Yeah. You can't depreciate land. Go figure. Right?
But I think you struggled in uni for a different reason, because you went to uni with Neil.
Yeah,
you guys didn't go to any lectures.
But like for me, like I've got to really apply myself, right? Like, so I figured out very quickly, like I surrounded myself with intelligent people, figuring out that I am not like that. I am completely wired very differently, right? So I've got to put in the hours. I've got to put in the hours and hours and hours of study, and if not, I'm going to fail. So I knew that from, once again, first year uni, having failed 3 out of 4 subjects, right? Like second semester. So I figured out I can't balance this, and I can't work as well trying to get some cash doing a retail job. So yeah, I had to make things work. But like, did it discount anything of that degree? No, but I was clear on what I wanted at the end. Was I, to Kevin's point, should you do a degree without knowing what the work's like at the end of the tunnel? That's a very good question to have. I think work and uni together should be a compulsory thing, once again, to allow you going, hey, look, I want to study accounting. Well, if you want to go into accounting, this is what a commercial accountant does. Here's a 1 month practical or whatever it is.
Which some unis do, but for the exclusive students.
Yeah, correct. But not for everyone, right? Yeah. So then you end up doing this whole degree, figuring out that you're looking at spreadsheets, and then you come back and say, I hate this.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to go restudy something else. Yeah. Right? That's very valid, right?
Yeah, so. But I think Hubert's point is, but correct me if I'm wrong, Hubert's point is there's a need in an economy for jobs to be done.
Yeah.
People will go and obviously follow their passions, which is great. But then there's a dilemma after they finish their degrees that they can't find work, and so they can't support themselves. And then they get affected by things like these rental crises, all these other cost of living crises. And then there's big uproar as a society about governments not supporting them. And there's this flow-on effect where then everyone else that has made harder decisions and harder choices to go into careers that they don't possibly like, but know that it's the right thing to get them a job where they'll get paid. To then contribute to the economy, supports everyone else who can't get those jobs.
Yeah.
All those people go and do those, bachelors or whatever, and then become train drivers or whatever, because that's the only thing that they can do, which is a great job, pays well, but it's not what they studied.
Yeah.
Which there's a bit of a disconnect on. So I think that's probably part of the argument as well. Is that?
Yeah. See, I got like 3 points on this, and then I want you guys to comment on it. So like, I went to public school, selective school. So I've been around people with different sort of book smart levels, right? So when I was at Macquarie Boys, a lot of the boys were they weren't book smart, But they were smart guys when it came to like, you know, getting their hands dirty, all that kind of stuff. They were really good at that stuff. So for those guys to go to university, it would have been a waste of time. They need to go into apprenticeship. They need to go into trade, and that's where they were going to excel. And that's my point. Like, if you try to push these boys into university, it's just a waste of time for them.
But like, why, like, who's trying to say push people into that style? Like, everyone's got a choice, though, right? So, but if you make the barrier of entry easier,
Exactly. That's my point.
But if you make it easier, then people have that choice. If they wanted to, at least they can, right? So, out of that handful of students, like, let's say one or two really wanted to go down a path, but all they knew was their family going into trades. Like, it's unlikely that they'll come back and be like, hey, let me try something else, because it's going to cost a lot of money. They're going into a lot of unknowns. Who's going to support them?
But this is you raised a point about you know, how because, you know, when you go to university, it's like, so a lot of people don't know what they're going to do in E12. So you sort of get to that end of HC and be like, you get a mark, and you know, say example, Barry now used to be 90, but now it's like 75 or something. You're like, oh, I can actually do that course. In their head, it's like, because they can do it, they'll do it. But then in the end, you know, they'll probably, like I said, it'll be a wasted degree. There you go, do the course, and it's like, I actually don't like this. I don't want to be in office. I'd rather be out there doing something else. You just waste 3 years, $100,000, and you go into a job that does nothing to do with the course you just finished.
Yeah.
And that's the point. Like, if you make it easy, if you drop the barrier entry, you're giving these kids options when they probably don't even need it. Shouldn't be going into those degrees.
I think that's a ruthless comment. I think a bit like the reality is, I think right now, if you to, I wouldn't say reduce the mark, I'd say probably just make it a bit more like cheaper to have, like not make it $100,000 for education. I think that's a bit ridiculous. Make it easier to access. Then largely on top of that, people can evaluate, right? Like, no one's, you know, after a year of uni, you can come back and say, this is not for me, or I'm not going to get the right outputs that I need. Like, what is the gap for someone to come back and say, yeah, look, I've given it a shot. It's not for me. I'd rather go down this path, right? The output of uni, we can't confirm with anyone ever. That's like any course that I've done in my life. It's been a calculated risk, right? The risk has the reward has outweighed the risk in this case. So for me, I'm like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. But if it's the other way around, I'd doubt it, right? So right now, if I do want to go into further education, like what is there? You know, do a doctorate? That's a large part of it, right? Now, do I take off a few years to go write a thesis? It's a very valid question. So, you know, like, do I give up a paying job? What do I do with my family? What do I do with that? That's just to get the doctor title against my name. Would I ever do it in the future? Maybe. I got no idea.
And I'm not disagreeing. There is a place for people to do that as well. Yeah. But that shouldn't be for like it shouldn't be for a large group. I feel like, you know, like, because like, to me, what annoys me is like, I finished a, you know, bachelor of business degree. Yeah. It sort of feels like there's no value to that. Like, I go tell someone who works like, I did bachelor of business, like, yeah, everyone's done that. You know, and it's just like, no one cares. Only because I finished my CA, they're like, okay, maybe, because CA was difficult. I'm like, okay, now you're an accountant. But it's like, no one cares about bachelor of business degree. Whereas I think the CA level of difficulty should be what's at university, so that degree is worth something. You guys, I finished a bachelor of business, and they're like, shit, okay, this guy, you know, he applied himself, and he's ready for the workplace, you know.
I think certain universities are more difficult, right? So let's use that, right? Bachelor of business, right? So I went to Western Sydney University. Where did you go?
To UTS.
UTS, right? Yeah. If we went for the same job, you'd most likely get the job, right? If we had the same equal experience, because they'd rank.
When you're 22.
Yeah.
I'm
saying.
But now,
the area,
as a graduate,
as a grad, like, that matters, right? Because like, there's perceptions of how difficult universities are. So you would have had a leg up instantly, right? Just with the perception of being hard and more prestigious or whatnot, right? We can't validate any of that stuff, but then it depends on your cohort of mates. But like, did you not find it challenging? Like, let's say you have moved countries to support your family, and you're trying to take up some education, trying to figure out, this is the path I want to go down. I don't really want to become a mechanic or a tradesperson. What's the go there? Like, if you're making it that hard, you're making the entry more expensive. Like, you know, are you promoting education, or are you sort of declining it? I think for my end, it would have been make it as cheap as possible, or if not free, for university.
I'm all for free education. And
then once you make it free, I'm not saying make it easier or make it harder. I'm just saying keep it consistent, right? It's the same amount of challenge, because you need to still put in the hours, you still need to do all the testing. But then it's up to the person what you want to do with it. Similar to your HSC, right? Like in your high school. What subjects you do out of it and how you apply it, that's up to you, right? So you can take some subjects that you really like on, and so you can drop other things. There's some things you may like and you can't have that option, and that's life. Right? I really wanted to do economics, but my chemistry class blocked it. And someone told me going, you need to do a science. This was like the careers person at the time, right? So I ended up dropping, like I couldn't choose economics and I chose chemistry. A huge regret, even till now, right? But that's a choice I had to make, like literally. And like, I knew that I didn't get it and I wasn't going to get it the whole time. So I took that on going, this is a wasted subject for me.
Let's come to that point. That's a great point, actually. Careers advisors in schools
Are useless.
are outdated.
Useless. Absolutely useless.
That's. I think that's part of the problem because I mean I didn't have such a bad experience with it.
Where did you go? Where did you go for your 2 weeks or 1 week?
We didn't even do that.
Oh, you didn't have work experience?
No. Oh, actually,
You had 2
maybe
work
we did.
experience. Yeah,
I did a call center with my mum actually in
it was
American
in-
Express.
And you ended up in recruitment.
Yeah.
How good. That's a direct correlation.
Well, first you end up an auditor.
Yeah. But I think that's part of the challenge, right? So when I was part of my old company,
yeah.
I won this thing which was like a corporate social responsibility, and I went doing this research on careers advisors at schools, and I found that that's where the gap and the disconnect is because career advisors are advising based on their time, their journey, and their generation. There's nothing. I mean, they probably do a bit of learning and stuff that the Department of Education shoots through, but there's no relevant inspiration for students coming through unless they go and seek that out themselves. I was very fortunate and lucky that my dad pushed me when I said I'm going to do accounting. He was the one that's going out and saying, all right, you got to go to all these career fairs because they're really good to get yourself out there in the market. I don't even know if CA existed. He's like, you have the option of doing CA or CPA. These are the types of jobs you can get even before you start uni. I was lucky to have that kind of, someone pushing me. Even though I was driven, I didn't go and seek that. But that should be avenues that your school or your careers advisor should be pushing potentially through to you, which I don't think many people or many schools have, unless you're in the rich and fancy.
So my school told me, you're not going to get into uni. Don't bother applying. Go and apply for a TAFE course.
They actually said that to you.
Yeah.
Look at him now, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but that's what I got told, right? So like
Right.
just because once again not smart but persistent is what I call myself. I was like, do I apply for a TAFE course? And right then I was like, no, just go all in. Like if it doesn't happen, doesn't happen, right? So I just applied for my uni, like my 5 courses or whatever it was. Didn't bother with the TAFE thing. And I said, if it doesn't work out, I've got a year or so to work and figure it out and take the next part of my life, right? But that's the way I took it. I was like, no one's going to tell me that I can't do something. And if my marks don't reflect it, my marks don't reflect it. But I was like, this is what I want to do. So, yeah.
So is that how you'd fix it? You know how you're saying people are doing things that they probably shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
If they had the right advice at that young age, either in year 10 to drop out of year 10 and go into trades or whatever, or once they finish year 12 to go down a particular pathway, if they had that right direction, would that fix all of these issues with uni and people going into the right degrees?
100%, because I think a lot of kids at that school level, you come year 10, 12, and I was the same. Like I had no idea where I was going, and I think that's wrong in a way that you should, like I said, if you got a subject you sort of like, which is what I like business studies, economics when I was in school, which is sort of why I went that direction. And I was lucky as well, like my dad was an accountant as well, so he sort of helped me, guide me there. But if there was a good careers advisor, which when I was at Macquarie Boys, it's a funny story, I actually had a good careers advisor in that, like you, I was going to want to become a mechanic because also all the boys are tradespeople and I wanted to join in. I actually wanted to go to work experience at a mechanic place, and the careers advisor said, she actually rejected it, said no. You go into an office. I was like, what? I was like, what do you mean I go to office? It's like, you're not becoming a mechanic. I was like, okay. So then my dad hooked me up with some sort of accounting role somewhere else. So then
I think they saw how soft and moisturized your hands were.
this guy's not going to survive. So yeah, so in that, look, that way the careers advisor did help me. But then when I went to 11, 12, I think the careers advisor there I think they were pretty useless. So, and then that was where I probably needed the most to guide me to where I wanted to go. They never told me anything about, what's the cadetships and stuff. They never talked about that there. I was lucky because my dad's workplace had the cadetship. He said, apply for this. I'm like, okay. Otherwise, I wouldn't have applied for it. So you're right. So maybe if there was, if the careers advisors were a bit more focused on what the kids wanted to do, guide them, I think they'd be much better to go, whether to go TAFE, uni, trade, apprentice, whatever it is, right? So
And it's not a knock on career advisors, right? Because that's not their main job. They're actually like teachers or head of faculties and stuff. And they're given like thrown an extra $5,000 to be like, hey, you're now the career advisor of this school.
Oh no, Alwyn was a full-time career advisor.
yeah,
Oh, really?
I think ours
I
was
don't
as
think
well.
we had that. We
We had
mine
a
was like a
full-time.
teacher.
No, we had a full-time person.
Yeah, I
as a
think
career
ours
advisor.
was the full-time careers advisor.
Yeah, so this is a knock on career advisor.
yeah. No, I mean, like it's so my 2 work experience, which I remember pretty well. Like I had my first one was a legal aid in Penrith, and the next one was an accounting firm, and that accounting firm.
What was the first one?
Legal aid.
Oh, you said Lee Lade. I was like, what is that?
No, so legal aid. So that's where like people come in for their other consulting. Like you get 15 minutes for free if you're a regular person, or if you lower social economic status, you'll get legal support, right? But I actually really enjoyed that. So that was my first stint at seeing what a solicitor does. I got hooked on that. Really enjoyed it, right? The next one was an accounting practice. Once again, so I knew the 2 parts, but I knew my marks weren't going to get me to like a law degree. But like, did I ever consider saying, after a year, can I switch and do law? Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, like even now, I'm like, can I do that? Yeah, valid question. I don't know if I go that far down, but like it's things I really enjoyed. But for us was like, for me, having that relevant experience, seeing what it's like, and then getting it. Maybe that's compulsory. If someone goes, oh, I want to study accounting, go and work for a month first. This is what they do. If you really like it, now you're allowed to work. Maybe that's a gap. Because like Braden's first childcare, there was one of the educators. She was studying, I think she was just working. She enjoyed it that much. Then she quit after Braden had left, and she said she's going to study it full time to do a uni degree or whatever it is, and then come back and work. So she's now had the relevant experience, really likes it. Now it's going to go do a formal education and then come back. I think that's super powerful. Really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And doing education later in life even, that's also really critical, right? Because sometimes some people end up in roles and then, like having done the MBA, some people skipped out on the uni part. So like right time, right place, but right opportunities, all that does matter, right? Like how you work, what your work ethic's like. When you come to a stage in your life where you come back and say, I do need some further education, it could be very valid. It doesn't have to be when you're 18, does it? Right? Like you can do an MBA in your 60s and get away with it, right? Like, so yeah, and you don't need to have anything else prior. You can skip that bachelor's.
But tell me this then. Did you think, say you're hiring someone, would you care about the uni degree or would you care about the work experience more?
For me, work experience.
Yeah.
But it would depend on the role I'm after. So I'm just after a junior accountant. I'll get someone that's fresh out of uni, right?
Yeah.
Because they understand accounting. I don't want a salesperson for that role. But if someone's come back and say, I've got 5 years of AP experience or whatnot, and a graduate comes out, it's a difficult decision because I know one can be actually molded pretty quickly, or may not be, right? I don't know. I'm taking a gamble once again on that. So.
Yeah, because that's my point. Like I've seen a lot of the boys in our group as well. Like when they they had a lot of retail experience, that kind of stuff. You see those sort of boys, the soft skills are so much better than what say someone like me had went straight into like a professional role. Like I missed that whole retail part of working. I think hopefully with I'm thinking if I want advice my son later on, it'd be like get that retail experience. He's a young kid, deal with weird people. All the different types of people in the world. Start talking, get better at those sort of skills, and then go into like a degree or something. Like I think it's that some work experience to me, what I've was sort of my take of all my career so far is like that's worth a lot more. So I think, and look, a degree has its place. Don't get me wrong. I think a degree has its place there, but work experience is sort of where you're gonna learn the skills, and you can take them to different roles, the way you negotiate, the way you talk to people. I think that's what's important, and that's what I'm gonna probably teach my son.
Teaching soft skills. To say learn that first, it's a bit random, right? Like, let's say Daniel really exceeds in a particular field, let's say it's music, or let's say it's let's say it's construction management. Like he may just need to be a really good manager, or like a project manager. Doesn't need to have the soft skills, right? Just needs to deliver on those outcomes. And that's what now a lot of companies are doing. They don't want a bunch of salespeople that can fluff around with all this stuff. They need people that can deliver. And that's where the gaps are in the market, right? It's the ones who can actually go, yeah, I can build this. I'll build it for you and then I'll go away. I don't want to see a project that goes, oh yeah, I'm going to quit you a month and then take 6 months to figure it out. And I'm just doing PowerPoints that just keep rotating and the roadmap keeps changing, right? Like, for me, I'm looking for people that can deliver, want them straight to the point, things are going wrong, tell me they're going wrong, right? But I feel like that skill is also being lost, right? The more you do sales, the more people spin stuff. Like they've got ways to spin stuff, right? So yeah, so I think it's a balance, right? So yeah, but the social stuff you'll get from like sports, other things. There's ways for you to be involved in accounting. The softer skills you attract more when you progress higher. It's the weirdest component. It's the opposite way around to retail, because the higher up you go, the more you got to win work.
Yep.
Then you have to develop this knack. Whereas in sales roles, you have to develop that really up front. Then the higher up you go, the more you just sort of manage the juniors doing all that grunt work for you. So it's like an inverse relationship in my opinion. So accounting is different to that. Yeah. Same with legal, but like you end up sort of building those skills as you sort of track along. So, and the company will mold you on how they want you to speak, because you're just surrounded in that environment, right? So, yeah.
I think audit's the perfect start though. Like what you and me went to, like literally on your first day or your first week, you're out there talking to clients.
That's right. Yeah.
Like you're there talking to a CFO, like asking for bank reconciliations without knowing what a bank reconciliation is. So it forces you to like I remember for the first year I was like packing it, and then like in my second year I was like I'm still packing it, but you have to put on kind of this level of confidence.
That's right.
To pretend like you know what you're doing, until they ask you about some standard and they need some help with something. And you're like, oh yeah, I'll get back to you. So it like there's certain jobs even in your industry that'll give you that exposure. So if I can wrap this up, 3 ways you'd solve this if we were the Department of Education or for the government right now. Fixed career advisors at schools. You're saying get work experience aligned with degrees. How do you incentivize companies to do that? Because if I'm hiring for someone and I have someone starting uni, I'm not incentivized to hire them. I'd rather just go and pay the same money for someone who's finished uni.
I don't know what the answer for that is, but I definitely figure out some sort of like sort of credit system or whatever it is to come back and say you've pushed this many graduates or work experience people through. I don't know, tax break, whatever that looks like, some sort of incentive.
I think that's
I
think that's
come
good.
back and the companies will then come back and be like, actually I'll take that on. They may cover work cover or something else like that. Maybe you might get reduced rates.
Yeah.
There might be some sort of, but there'll be an advantage right at the end, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think that's a good idea, because if you can incentivize a company, like at the end of the day, if I'm training a 22-year-old out of uni or an 18-year-old, I'd prefer to train the 18-year-old, but you always hire the 22-year-old because they've been through uni. You're hoping understood some of the concepts, but you're still training them both the same thing because they're going to come in fresh anyway. Yeah. But if you have an incentive to do that, then maybe companies will do that more and more. And third, you're saying make unis harder, like make degrees harder.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, make it more challenging. Yeah, that's right. So make it worth.
Would you say like
paper,
what's the thing where like only the top 50% pass or something, or a certain percentage?
Yeah, it should be harder. Like
you have to be.
I mean, you did your CA as well.
Yeah.
Like it was hard.
Yeah.
Like that was proper difficult, and it was sort of like, and not everyone passed. It wasn't 50% pass. Like then a certain percent of people passed the CA. So like, why can't that be university? Like make it difficult. Like make it something that's.
Why? Like, what's wrong with the existing model? Like, are you saying?
Listen, like my degree to me right now feels like useless. Like that's my point.
Does it feel useless because it felt easier, or does it feel useless because there's so many people on the market?
Everyone's got it.
Yeah, well, I think that's a different.
Yeah, you're like, I mean, just the fact that you're making something harder, it doesn't mean that.
But that means if I make it harder, like it's like with a CA, like there's not everyone has a CA. Like a lot of people have business degrees, but not everyone has a CA because CA is more difficult. People try it and they fail and they give up. And that's because me having the CA is worth a lot more than me having this business degree, which a lot of people have, and that's my point.
Can I say something as well? Uni teaches you discipline. I think you probably found uni easier because the school you went to, you were surrounded with people that studied well and like had that discipline in studying, education, doing assignments or whatever. You took that from school, which you were surrounded by good people who did that, into uni, and that system worked for you, which is why you probably excelled really well at it. I think a lot of people fumble through school. I feel like I did okay at school, but uni was a different level of kind of teaching yourself that discipline again, which is why some people might struggle with that.
Yeah.
So maybe some, depending on what school you go to, the people you surround yourselves with, maybe I needed better mates. But if you go from one environment to a environment that demands more discipline and demands I remember they were saying you need 10 hours of work at uni per week. I was like, mate, I'm lucky to have done freaking half an hour in my all my work was piled towards the end. But I remember every exam time, I was like, man, I wish I just started this much earlier, because that's why I just barely scraped through all my subjects.
Yeah. So for me, yeah, it's like insanely difficult going to uni, because just coming from a different environment, not knowing how to study, having to reapply yourself. Yeah, just having to figure that stuff out. Like, I wasn't set up for that. So like, yeah, like, and then for me then to like figure out going study groups, figuring out what do I do here? What do I need to read? Like, that was all intensely challenging. So just to make something more difficult, I'd say do a harder degree then. I'd say if you're that bright and if you need something more challenging, why don't you do actuarial studies or something else, right? Like that for me, it's like apply yourself to the relevant course then. Don't come back and say, hey, I'm a really bright guy. I want to do accounting. Wow, this is way too easy. They should make this course harder. There's what's not clear when you first start studying, to me anyway, was, hey, look, if you do this accounting degree, no employer's going to recognize it without a professional accreditation.
That's right.
Whereas if you do a marketing degree, it stops there. Your degree's a degree and you move on and get a job. So I think for each one, you come back and say, well, if you do this for 3 years, you also need to do this. If you don't do that, this is useless. That, and, we've got mates here right now who have done accounting degrees within our group and not done their CA or CPA, and therefore the accounting degree is largely useless, right? So like an employer won't come back and say, are you a qualified? They say, are you a qualified accountant? They can't say yes.
That's right.
They can say no to that part, right? So yeah, that's the reality of it.
Yeah, good conversation. So 3 ways we can solve it: career advisors, fix career advisors at schools, incentivize workplaces to take on people during uni, and potentially make uni harder, or I don't know, limit the amount of people that go through and do certain degrees. Good conversation points, guys. One thing that's been on my mind though, unis, I think this is the big argument in America as well. They teach you, we used to be taught in uni how to think, but now they teach you what to think. And that's been a big problem in Google's, all of their people going through, creating different products for them. Google Gemini, I don't know if you guys have seen the news lately. So there's been all these AI image generators that have, all these big companies are creating. Google Gemini has been the latest one over the last week, and their image generator is off the charts. When I say off the charts, I mean not realistic, super woke, whatever your definition of woke is. But if I show you these images, you will laugh. So I want to take you on a journey now. I want you guys to...
I didn't even know what Google Gemini was. That's the first time I heard of that.
I did see some headlines, but I didn't go into too deep.
I want you guys to close your eyes.
Okay.
And picture this.
What's this?
I'm gonna read it out for you.
Oh, right. Okay. Picture this, the THIS.
I want you to imagine...
We should have drawn this out ourselves. This would have been
I want you to imagine a pope.
Yep.
A pope standing there looking at you. And I want you to now open your eyes and describe what that pope looks like to me.
So he'd be wearing like a robe. The robe, I don't know what the hat's called.
Yeah.
Hat, whitish, sort of just looking at you.
Yeah.
Probably background of clouds.
Age.
On some
what about like
older?
Give me some more. Yeah. Age,
older,
skin color,
white and male.
gender.
Definitely white guy, white male. Older guy. Probably not as tall.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I want to show you what Google Gemini has. This is just one of the examples. All right. There's hundreds like this. This is Google's generator of a pope.
Mate, what the try?
Go show me.
The left hand side got me.
Yeah, what is that?
Is that a nun?
Yeah, is that like a subcontinental girl?
Hunting?
Really?
So this is part of the issue, and I'll show you a few more examples. Google Gemini has apparently been created in a way to think outside the box, think diversity and all this other stuff, right? It's obviously gone into this superpower image generator where it's now doing everything very diverse, almost to the point where it doesn't even relate to the particular image it describes. I'll show you a couple of others.
I mean, can we open at that? But like, why like, do we have the preconception of skin color for a pope?
Well,
I mean,
it's not
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
It's his history.
that's all. I can't think of anyone who also wasn't white that was Pope.
Yeah.
No, but it's just like back with America thinking like there's no black president, right? And then like now it's happened. Now sort of can come back and say, yeah, like is it just a point in time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good thought. But now I want you to give me a few more examples.
Okay, go on.
Are we closing our eyes?
Australian woman.
Yeah.
Generic Australian woman. Like, I'm not thinking, like, obviously there's diversity and stuff, but when you think Australian woman, what's the first thing you think of?
Ash Barty.
Blonde, beach,
Yeah.
white, tall.
Yep. This is an Australian woman according to
Yeah, right.
Google Gemini.
That's nothing. Doesn't look Australian at all.
And so you can
What does
imagine,
that look like?
you can imagine, you know, the internet's having a field day. So after some of these, I don't even know if it's real. Generate a picture of Elon Musk.
Come on, man. That's Wesley Snipes, man.
Oh, nice.
And so the internet's having a field day, so much so that there's some examples like people joke around. I asked Google to give me a picture of vanilla ice cream, and it gives it chocolate ice cream.
Oh, wow. Come on, man.
I saw a great post actually on this. It goes, I got to read this to you. Pretty crazy that Google Gemini is only a team of 47 people. 2 engineers, 16 PMs, project managers,
Yeah.
and 29 senior global directors of DEI.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, when you said only 47, like that's a huge team, man.
So, I mean, that's just something on the news. I think Google have admitted that they've got issues with after they've seen the feedback. At the start, they were like, look, we're trying to be diverse, inclusive and stuff like that, even in our image generation. And then people gave it very obvious examples. And they're like, okay, guys, we've actually got an issue. We're going to go review everything that we've done. And, you know, there's some things that they're trying to tweak. But I just think it's pretty funny because there's been big discussions on the internet around how bias and preconceived bias is created into how, you know, your large language models and ChatGPT, your image generation work, because it's sifting through information on the internet, right? But that's actually how, you know, everyone thinks, because it's based on history, based on what's actually happened. We're not asking Google, tell me who the ideal pope should look like. We're saying, give me what you think based on everything that you've seen, what a pope looks like.
Yeah.
And it's going through history and giving us that example, which I think, like, we're almost trying to change history to determine our future, which is, you know, where I have kind of issues with that. I don't know what you guys think about it. You raised some good points as well. Like, maybe we shouldn't be thinking about a pope.
Yeah, but I think that the way you've asked that question was like, you know, like, tell me what a pope looks like.
Yeah.
Is in, if we're thinking future versus looking at history. But if it's, yeah, well, you're right. If it's, tell me what you know, we only know what we've seen before, right?
That's right.
So, yeah, absolutely. Like, it's, I think the framed questions matters, and like the image generation needs to factor that stuff in, right? Can't just come back and say, this is what it is or it's not. Like, yeah, the Elon Musk one even was more ridiculous, right? Like, it's a point
I don't know if the Elon
question.
Musk one was real, but that's just something.
Wouldn't surprise me there, right? So,
but yeah, generally pretty funny. Great pod, guys. Good discussions, and catch y'all next episode. Hubert, actually, before we go, you wanted to say something.
Yes. If you enjoyed that episode, please like it. And if you want to enjoy more content, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.
It's 2018, baby, year out of D Lego. D Lego.